All right, joining us here on the Chiefs Zone podcast, a friend of the podcast. Very excited to have this person on as he will be part of the Chiefs Zone Live next week. That will be at Planet Comic-Con Kansas City at the Kansas City Convention Center. It's going to be me hosting the Chiefs Zone Live alongside Chiefs Hall of Famers Neil Smith and Chiefs Hall of Famer and our guest for this episode, Deron Cherry. Deron, thank you so much for joining us here on the Chiefs Zone podcast. How are you, sir?
Man, great to be here with you, Farzin. Always a pleasure.
The pleasure is all mine. I appreciate you always making time for us with your generosity and your time and whatnot. We got a lot of things to get into here. I know you've got a lot of events coming up. I also want to pick your brain on the secondary, being that's your expertise, and also everything going on with this Chiefs team this offseason. But first and foremost, we've got a big event next weekend. And I've got to just say, I really do appreciate you, as well as Neil, for trusting me and being part of the first ever Chiefs Zone Live. I remember reaching out to my audience just on a post saying, hey, would you guys be willing to attend a live podcast if we did one this offseason? And the response was overwhelmingly yes. And the fact that you and Neil are willing to trust me with this, that truly means a lot, and I really appreciate that.
Well, you know, you've been good to us, and what we've tried to do is spread the word of our foundations and you know, this community as we help out this community, and you've been a big supporter of ours. So, man, this is going to be great. I'm excited. I mean, even my kids are excited to come and see this event. So it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it.
And if you guys want to attend, Planet Comic-Con is next weekend, March 27th through the 29th. I'll be there all weekend, but Neil and Deron, they will be there on Sunday, the 29th. I believe doors open at 10 a.m., so get your tickets at planetcomiccon.com. When you go to the website, there's a yellow box that says buy tickets. You still have time to purchase tickets, and basically you get a 3-day weekend pass, or you can get just a Sunday pass if you just want to come out for the Chiefs Zone Live. And the Chiefs Zone Live itself, that will be at 2:30 p.m. Central Time, and that will be at room 2502A at the Kansas City Convention Center. It's going to be a lot of fun. Once that wraps up, it's only going to be a 30-minute show. Neil and Deron will be going back to their tables to be doing meet and greets. So before and after the show, there will be a lot of meet and greets. And by the way, Deron, if people want to bring a football, a poster, your jersey, Neil's jersey, yeah, whatever people want to bring, they are encouraged to bring that. Those are certainly encouraged at Planet Comic-Con Kansas City.
Absolutely. Bring whatever you have. We'll be willing to sign it, autograph it, whatever. That's what it's all about. That's what we're here for. And hopefully we can raise some money for charity.
Yes, this is going to be a lot of fun. And there are a lot of great celebrities that will be at Planet Comic-Con Kansas City. So check out their website, planetcomiccon.com, and get your tickets there. Deron, you've got a couple of other events coming up later this year as well, and I want to give you a chance to promote those. You have the casino event at Ameristar Casino, as well as your celebrity tailgate and your celebrity golf tournament in late September of this year. Talk about those events for those who may not be familiar or maybe who've never been to one of your events before.
Yeah, this is a first. Our May 9th event is, our casino night. We gracious partners with Ameristar Casino. They're going to let us host a casino night there. And this is going to be a fun night because it doesn't matter if you gamble or don't know how to gamble. This is where you can learn without even putting up money of your own, right? So this is a fun event. We're going to have a great time. There's going to be a lot of people there enjoying the evening. Get an opportunity. You can even, book a reservation at the hotel and spend the night there. Enjoy this evening because it's going to be great and have an opportunity to have a lot of fun. We'll have some players there and, this is great. And then, of course, in September is our kickoff for our golf tournament event. We'll have our tailgate party on Saturday, September 26th, and then we'll have 2 days of golf on the 28th and 29th. So if you want to participate, you want to show up at the event, if you want to be a volunteer, you can go to the site and register. If you want to be a sponsor, if you want to play golf, we have all kinds of opportunities for you for those events that are coming up in September as well.
Awesome. If you guys want to check out any more information on that, they're going to be working on their website. They're working on getting that back up, but it is going to be DeronCherryFoundation.org. So very exciting stuff coming up for you guys, Deron. And speaking of exciting, it's been kind of an exciting couple of weeks for the Chiefs. A lot going on with them. It all kind of started off with the Trent McDuffie trade. I know there's been speculation for several weeks. Are the Chiefs going to keep him? Are they going to extend him? Will they trade him? I know the big narrative on Brett Veach ever since he became the general manager is that the Chiefs just don't give second contracts, at least big second contracts, to defensive backs that they draft. I'm wondering what your reaction was when Trent McDuffie got traded.
I was a little mixed reviews. I like Trent McDuffie. He's been a great addition to the Chiefs kingdom. I mean, he came in here as a rookie and performed extremely well. I mean, he leaves, the team. He's got, 3 Super Bowl rings or 2 Super Bowl rings?
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, what more could you say about a guy that's come in and played the way he's played over the years and, brought leadership to the secondary and stood up against some, tough odds and some tough situations and came through. But the opposite side of the coin is that not everybody gets the chance to stay on one team forever. I was fortunate enough to do it in my career, but that was, before free agency and, the way the money has changed now has made it a lot different with the salary cap and things of that nature. But I look at it and say, God, what did we get in return? We got 4 draft picks, so now we can continue to make this team younger, better. And especially with the needs that we have, we don't have to go out there in the draft and go and try to reach for picks now because we have a stable of draft picks now. We started with 6 and now we've got 9. We've got 2 in the first round, but we've got 4 in the top, I think it's 60 picks or
top 75. Yeah.
Top 75. So we have 4 picks. So think about that. 4 picks in the top 75. That is truly amazing. And when you have that kind of draft capital, Farzin, now you open yourself up to a lot of different options. So you got other teams that might be wanting to trade with you. You can offer up trades if you find somebody that you just absolutely think is the type of player that's going to make your team, so much better. You have the capital to be able to make those deals happen when it comes to the draft. So, yeah, I'm sad to see him go, but what it's done for this team is put them in a position where they can continue, to strive to win championships and not just have to have this huge rebuilding type of situation that most teams that go to a Super Bowl and win come back and have to do that. We're going to have that flexibility to be able to move forward and build this team again, especially during these formative years that we had Patrick Mahomes at the quarterback position.
Yeah, and I definitely want to pick your brain on the draft later on because you're right about that flexibility. We saw that with Tyreek Hill 4 years ago, and one of those players you got was McDuffie, and now trading him away does the exact same thing, giving that flexibility. We'll get into the draft in a few minutes, but the secondary is going to be interesting, and I'm sure, the Chiefs will probably have a focus on the defensive side of the football, especially in the secondary, like they did 4 years ago. With the losses of Jalen Watson, Josh Williams, at the moment, we don't really know what's going on with Najee Johnson, if he's going to come back or not. I know he's had issues in coverage, but he is a speedster as a quarterback, and Spags loves to use him in blitz packages there. I just look back at 4 years ago, and my biggest criticism going into 2022 was there are way too many rookies in the secondary. Brian Cook, Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, those guys all ended up being great for Kansas City from the get-go. How difficult is it to want to trust a lot of rookies in that secondary? Because Kansas City might be facing that kind of a secondary again going into 2026.
Yeah, you could. They could be facing that, but I think they've got some guys that have had some games underneath their belt. Noah Williams, he's going to be able to step up and give him more responsibility. You got Kristen Fulton that's coming back, and he played a lot towards the end of the season, so he got experience. Plus, he's not a rookie. He's been in the league before. He's been injured, but he's come back, and now they're going to be relying on him. And then you got other guys that are going to have to step up. Yeah, are you going to have young players? That's what this league is all about. You either stay young and stay competitive, or you get old and you get slow, and then you're on a downhill slide. So it's always good to infuse young players. And if you're taking players at, the top of the draft or in the first couple rounds, most of the time these players are guys that are ready to play in the league. They're not guys that are, you consider them rookies only by name only, but these are guys that, have tremendous talent. You wouldn't be drafting them high if they didn't have tremendous talent. So you're expecting them to be productive. Are they going to go through growing pains? Absolutely. That's what this league is about. But the faster they get on the field, the faster they're able to grow, faster they're able to learn, and the more successful they're going to be. And let's face it, we have a good coaching staff that can coach these players up, and that's been proven.
Yeah, absolutely. I know there's a lot of positives about Dave Merritt and how he developed those players in the secondary. Of course, Spags, we don't need to get into that. His resume really does speak for itself. They added Alohi Gilman, who is an underrated player and has familiarity with Drew Tranquill playing in Notre Dame and also with the Chargers. How nice can that familiarity be, having a teammate that you played with on the defensive side of the football in college and from another NFL team?
Oh, it's very good to have a guy that you played with, that you're familiar with, that's been here in this system, and now you're new coming here. So that's somebody you can rely on and you can get information from that's going to help you make your transition that much smoother. He can help him with the defense, what Spag likes to do, and the fact that he's a safety in the middle of the field, which linebackers and safeties always have to be in sync. So it's really good for the Chiefs to have that kind of, closeness of a player that's been here. They played together in college. Now they'll be playing together here in the pros. So that's a good thing.
The Chiefs are going to be seeing a lot of new faces in the backfield as well on the offensive side of the football. And of course, the biggest splash they made in free agency across the NFL was getting the reigning Super Bowl MVP and Kenneth Walker. But it wasn't just the Super Bowl. He had a phenomenal postseason, and he split a lot of time with another running back in Seattle. Thank you. But I'm excited to see what that is. I know at the Combine, Veach said he wanted to have a more explosive run game. They also got DeMercado, who's got great breakaway speed. They sell Brashard Smith from last year's draft, who was one of the fastest players in the scouting combine. I'm curious what your thoughts are on the running game going into 2026.
Yeah, I like what they did. I think they targeted a guy in free agency and went out and got one of the best guys in the league. I mean, he's an amazing running back. I mean, he's very patient, gets through the hole, but he runs heavy. If I'm saying that, well, keeps his pads low. He's able to push forward and get those extra yards that you need. Short yardage and goal line, he's going to be a factor. So I like that. And what it does is it takes the pressure off of them to having to draft a running back that has no experience at all. And, normally you can get good running backs, second, third, fourth, in our case, 7th round picks, right? Because we've had success with that. So, I like what we did, and I think it's going to bode very well. We've got Eric Bieniemy coming back as the offensive coordinator, and he wants a tough, physical football team. He likes to run the ball, and I think that's going to bode well for this football team, especially on the offensive side.
I want to know your thoughts on this, and if you could maybe elaborate on this, because if you pay attention to football or listen to enough analysis out there, you'll hear that having a good running game can open up the passing game. And when you look at last year, yes, the Chiefs had a lot of speedsters, but they weren't able to utilize that. Now, part of it was some misconnections there on deep plays, with open receivers. That's got to improve for sure. But you saw a lot of defensive backs against Kansas City not stack the box because they had no fear with that Chiefs running game last year with Pacheco and Hunt. Now you kind of have to stack the box and really show respect to Kansas City's offense, especially the running game, and that can really open things up with play action, something they didn't do a lot of last year. As a safety, can you elaborate on that and talk about how difficult that can be for a defensive back to kind of have to be ready for anything and everything with the Chiefs offense that hopefully will have Patrick Mahomes early in the season?
Yeah, especially if the safeties and corners. I mean, you're all part of that run stopping defense, So if a team is running the ball against you and they're successful with it, you have to cheat up. You have to be in a position to make plays and shorten the gain. So you're constantly coming up, and especially against a team that's able to run the ball against you, you have to be able to come up and limit gains. Well, if you're going to start cheating up just to stop the run, then all of a sudden they start throwing play action pass against you. Man, all of a sudden you're caught off guard, and now you're in a position where you don't want to be, where you're chasing rather than in front of your receiver. And that's what happened last year. A lot of times our defense or our offense couldn't run the ball successfully enough to give our receivers an opportunity to get open. So what you saw is a lot of defensive schemes where they were just clamping on our outside receivers, right? They were getting up in their face, and they had safety help over the top, right? Playing a lot of two zone, which, if you're playing short because you don't respect the running game, now all of a sudden you can match up on guys underneath and take away those short passes that usually Kelsey was getting open down the field, or Juju Smith-Schuster, or even Worthy or Rashid Rice. So it puts, it takes a little more pressure when you can run the football. It takes that pressure off of you from that standpoint. But it puts the pressure on the defense, because now the defense has to prepare, to guard two things, the run and the pass. When you're one-dimensional, it's easy. You can play so much freer on the defensive side because you're not respecting the running game. You're not even looking or thinking about, having to guard against the run. You can focus mainly on the pass, give yourself more room, and you can break on the ball. And how many times last year did we see teams breaking on balls and disrupting pass patterns, and seemed like they were in tight coverage all the time because they didn't have to fear any kind of running attack against them that would put them on their heels. So having a running attack is such a big advantage for everybody on the offense, because now you can't just sit there and take away one thing. Last year, teams, defenses were taking away, the one thing that we did well, and that's throw the ball. And so they got themselves in a position where they could take those things away from us.
One of the biggest moves that got a lot of Chiefs fans excited was the Chiefs re-signing Tyquan Thornton. He was great during the first 3 games when Rice was suspended and Worthy had to miss those first 3 weeks due to injury, and he really stepped up. And I think a lot of people across the league saw a much different Tyquan Thornton than what they saw in New England. A lot of Chiefs fans were really disappointed with the usage and lack thereof after Worthy and Rice came back, because he was hardly ever used after that. The hope is, especially with Hollywood Brown moving on, that Thornton will be used much more this season. I'm curious what your thoughts are on Tyquan Thornton, and if you think the Chiefs will definitely utilize him more this year than they did last year.
Well, I hope so. He's a Rutgers guy, so it's all good, right? He performed extremely well. I mean, he was the go-to guy for Patrick. Going down the field, it seemed like he was the only one that seemed to be getting open on a consistent basis. And a lot of times Patrick wound up missing him. There were some times he made some unbelievable catches, but for the most part, he was open down the field. I mean, and he was another threat that they didn't have, prior to, getting Hollywood Brown back from injury and, Rashid Rice from suspension. He was the guy that was making things happen. So, I felt bad for him towards the end of the year where, he's out there and just seemed like he was just a decoy, right? He was the guy that was just running down the field, trying to open up for everybody else. And I can understand what his frustration was and saying, hey, look, I can be a much bigger part of this offense if you allow me to be a bigger part of this offense. So I'm sure we'll see that this year.
A couple more questions with you, Deron. I do want to get into the draft. We talked earlier how trading McDuffie does give you all this flexibility, and we know the Chiefs are going to be aggressive and trying to make moves, trading up or down. Veach has done that in years past. There is a lot of speculation what the Chiefs could do. They could get 2 defensive players. They could get an offensive player or a defensive player, excuse me. I'm also seeing, all these different mock drafts, having the Chiefs get all these different players. I'm wondering, do you have a preference? Do you want the Chiefs to get two defensive players? Do you think they should split it with offense and defense just in that first round alone?
I mean, I still think they have the ability to sign some players in this offseason that probably weren't here last year, that are still viable, good players in the league that maybe can give them 1 or 2 more years and get them at a very cheap price where it's not going to overload their cap. I think there's still some guys out there that they're probably looking at and saying, well, hey, if they're available, even after the draft or even during the draft, these are some players we may take a look at that will make us even a more better football team from an experience standpoint, rather than relying on rookies to get it done. But I will say this, that if I'm looking at this defensive football team and I'm looking at getting, a dominant pass rusher or a run stopper, I'm gonna look hard, as a coach and say, there's one guy that if we plug into this spot can make our whole defense 10 times better than it was last year, because now we'll be able to get consistent pressure on the quarterback with some of the moves that we made in the offseason, getting Tonga, right, from New England, you watch the film on him, he pushes the pocket. Similar to what Chris Jones has been able to do all these years. You get two guys like that, and then you get a dominant pass rusher. And if, you get some of the other guys coming through that we saw last year that played, fairly well, hey, this defense could be dominant. And then that will help your secondary as well. You talk about those young players in the secondary. What helps them the most? Pass rush, right?
Yeah.
So if you're able to get a pass rush and get, constant pressure on the quarterback, it's going to help them, especially early in the season as they develop.
I see a couple mock drafts having the Chiefs take a right tackle. Francis Maui-Noah, that's someone who is certainly a top 10 pick. You don't see a lot of right tackles get selected that early. Spencer Fano, some have him in the top 10, some have him much later in the first round. But a lot of Chiefs fans online don't like the idea of taking a right tackle in round 1. Do you have any opposition with that, or would you be in favor of a guy like Maui-Noah at 9?
It depends on who's available. I'm not saying that, going after a right tackle. We've gone after tackles before and it hasn't worked out. We've traded for tackles and it hasn't worked out. So I wouldn't be dismissive of it, but yet if there's somebody else that I think is better when they're picking in the draft at the 9th slot, if they hold on to the 9th slot, then I would take the more dominant player.
Something I wanted to ask you before we get out of here, Deron. This is off topic from the Chiefs in their offseason. I had the opportunity to talk to Kevin Patrick Allen, who is a documentary director, and he's putting together a documentary on Jim Tyrer and the controversy of him not getting into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The documentary is called Beneath the Shadow, with a release date still to be determined. But we spent some time talking about you a little bit on there, and he had mentioned that your family had helped out and taking care of Jim Tyrer's kids. I know Jan Stenerud, who I met at your golf event, he also stepped up as well in helping take care of Jim's kids shortly in the tragic events that took place. I'm wondering if you could maybe elaborate on some of the things that you and your family did in helping out Jim Tyrer's children shortly after that horrific event.
Yeah, so my sister Farzin was a teacher here at one time at Barstow High School.
Yeah.
And so she was the head field hockey coach, and so she actually was Jim's daughter's coach at the high school where her and her brother went. So one of the things that she did was she got an opportunity at times to babysit them. And so they were around quite a bit. I got to know them quite a bit. And but yeah, she was their babysitter for, during that time period that the family was going through all this, and they were great kids, and it was unfortunate, and it's just unfortunate too that the short-sightedness of what we know now that players have gone through with CTE and things of that nature, that we don't understand, all the ramifications of that. But we do know that, potentially Jim suffered from that. And that's maybe might have what caused, the unfortunate events that happened, to him and his wife and to that family. So hopefully, at some point in time, we can get more knowledge about the effects of that. And I'm hopefully that we will. I'm hopefully that the league will take that up and put more resources into the study of, CTE, because, you've got generations and generations of football players that potentially could be suffering from something like this. And we got to figure out better ways to either diagnose this issue, or get into a better situation from a medical standpoint, that we have some idea of what those symptoms are and be able to give players help before it gets to that point.
One last time before we get out of here, a reminder, next week, you guys want to meet Deron Cherry and Neil Smith. They will be at Planet Comic-Con Kansas City at the Kansas City Convention Center. And at 2:30, this is only on Sunday, March the 29th. And at 2:30 on that day, I'll be hosting the first ever Chiefs Zone Live. Deron and Neil will be joining me. We're looking forward to meeting all of you guys there. Both Deron and Neil will be doing a meet and greet before and after the live podcast. So there will be some memorabilia there that'll be available. You can sign, but if you want to bring a football, a jersey, an 8x10 of your own, please feel free to bring that as well. I know there are going to be a lot of people there. This is going to be the first time they're having Chiefs players there. So we got to give a big shout out to the founder of Planet Comic-Con, Chris Jackson, and his team for approving all this, giving the green light, giving us the opportunity to do the live podcast. Also, got to give a shout out to your executive director, Erin. She has been absolutely awesome in all of this, and we've been working very closely with her. One last time, Deron, is there anything you want to say on this event before we let you go?
And now just come out, show up. We're going to be there. We're going to be, Neil and I are looking forward to meeting as many people as possible. This is a great event for us. I mean, this is big for Kansas City. This event has always been a big time event in the springtime for Kansas City, and to have two former Chiefs Hall of Famers there is going to be extra special for the fans. So come out. We want to meet you all. We want to sign autographs. We want to talk about maybe some funny stories that maybe you haven't heard, but maybe Neil and I will be able to share with the fans. So, we're just excited and honored to be there.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it, Deron. It's going to be a fun time. Deron, it's always great talking to you. I appreciate it. We'll see you next week, and be well. Stay safe.
Thank you. Appreciate you.